All. If my wife was here, she'd say I'd certified in something else too, but I'll let y'all figure that out. It's good to see good to see a lot of you all. I know it's been a while since I've seen a few of y'all face to face. I've seen a few of you all in Hollywood Squares, also known as Zoom, and I get the pleasure of seeing Sharon most regularly at the chamber. So thanks for having us today. I'm going to tell a little bit of a story about where we're at with baseball in Kingsport. Oh, I forgot my duty here. I'm supposed to put this on, aren't I? It's like a magic trick. There we go. I'll introduce Steve Brice now, and I'll let him tell you a little more about himself. But Steve's the general manager of the Kingsport Axmen, which will be our new baseball team in the Appalachian Woodbat League. But I'm just going to tell you a little bit of a history story about how we got here over probably the past 8 or 9 months, kind of with the deletion of the Appalachian League as we knew it and what it is now, and how we got to where we are with the team. Talk a little bit about the process now for Major League Baseball and Minor League Baseball, and show you some logos, which you've probably already seen. This is actually the PowerPoint from the press conference we did a couple months ago, but I think it's all still relative and interesting for y'all to see. So, as everybody knows, contraction happened with minor league baseball, or you may not know, probably know now that we're standing here, which meant 42 teams, I believe, were eliminated for minor league baseball. The Appalachian League, all 10 teams were eliminated. And it kind of left us all going, well, what now? Baseball had been here for a long time. Hint, Steve's going to have some trivia questions later, and he'll probably ask how long baseball has been here. Some of his answers may come in my presentation. If you read the paper, or worked there, or have worked there, you probably read an article about it, so get your phones out and look now. We were all bummed. What are we going to do? No baseball. What are we going to do with this stadium sitting up here? I mean, as our elected can say this because they're not here, is they sold us really hard on this first Zoom call. And it was kind of like Jerry Maguire. They had us at hello. But we were like, yeah, sure, this sounds good. Let us think about it a little bit. But all 10 teams ultimately bought in to continue the Major League process through Kingsport and the Appalachian League. So fast forward a little bit further, we went through a lot of details of what we were going to do. And we're still, Steve will probably tell you today, we're still not really sure how it's all going to work, but we know we're going to play baseball next week. It's probably one of those things that John would, if he was still city manager, be a little nervous about. None of the cities are yet to have a contract with USA Baseball who will be operating this, but it is coming. And there are players coming on Tuesday, so we'll get all those details worked out. And with that, and you'll see this in a little bit, so because of the amateur status of the players being college athletes, Major League Baseball can't have a hands-on approach to it. So USA Baseball, the national governing body, is operating the league. Visit Kingsport owns the team, and then Boyd Sports is our operator. But USA Baseball is the governing body for this. However, it is in partnership with Major League Baseball. They are ultimately funding the process. So we get the team going. We know what's happening a little bit. You know, we understand how the process is happening, and as we're going through this timeline. And, you know, obviously one of the first questions is, what's the team going to be called, and how's that going to work? So they gave it the responsibility to us to come up. Each city had their own ideas of how to come up with a name. They wanted something that represented the community. And for us, that's a little bit hard sometimes, as you guys know. No offense, but, you know, it's kind of hard to be something related to Eastman as a mascot, or something iconic as Pals. You don't want to, you know, you got to think about something that ties to the community, but isn't too overbearing and isn't too obvious of what it is. So you've got to come up with something. You know, we thought about Fun Fest. You can't really be the hot air balloons. How exciting is that for a baseball team? We thought about the sweet teas. What says Southern and Kingsport better than sweet tea? But that also doesn't sound very masculine for a baseball player. And then, you know, we all love Pals, but were the colors going to be teal tile blue? That was also a little weird for us. So we kept going through the process, and we submitted 8 names to Major League Baseball, and all 8 of our names got through the first round of legal. And I can tell you, just as a side note, dealing with Major League Baseball's, their law team, or lawyers and legal team, is a bit of a challenge in itself. A good example we talked about when Jeremy was unable to be here today from Boyd Sports, but we gave this presentation before, and an example I like to give just so that people understand how stringent the process was Greenville, Tennessee, with an E, has a submarine in the Navy named after USS Greenville. So they thought, what a great idea, we'll be the Greenville Submariners. That's pretty good, all right, it makes sense. That got turned down by Major League Baseball, and they gave you an explanation of why on each of your denials. And it was because they said it sounded too much like Seattle Mariners. Seattle Mariners, Greenville Submariners, I don't know that it sounds that much, but that's how it was. And we couldn't be the Kingsport Cowboys or anything that had to do with any team that was in professional sports already. So that brings that other layer. So anyway, long story of that. You guys have heard of COVID, right? So my daughter and I, she was in quarantine from school, and we went for a walk on the Greenbelt, and we crossed the swinging bridge, and we were looking at the monument there, and I got this kind of was on top of my mind, and I was reading all this stuff, and we thought, how great would it be, if we could be something we were called before, which the, Indians, but that's ties to DB, but there's also the Cleveland Indians, so that's not going to work. I believe in the 50s, the Kingsport team was the Cherokees. Also a great idea. However, part of the parameters were nothing that had to do with ethnicity or alcohol. So that's out. The alcohol thing, we thought, hey, we'll be the Long Island iced teas, that can't work either. Then I immediately thought when they said that, I'm like, Cleveland Indians, Milwaukee Brewers, but we couldn't use those. So I thought about, we're walking out and I see the signs of Daniel Boone Wilderness Trail. And I thought, well, what can we do with that? So I started doing some research, and it just kept popping up. Every story I read was Daniel Boone and his band of Axmen. So we thought, hey, that kind of ties. They're swinging lumber, same kind of thing, swinging axes. So we ran that up the pole to Major League Baseball. They fell in love with it. We actually had a designer switch from the team he was working on to come work on the Kingsport team because he had such a good idea for the logos, which we'll show you in a second. As we did more research, a lot of you may know this story, Daniel Boone's band of Axmen was made up of approximately 30 men. How many players on the team now? 34. What a coincidence. So anyway, that's the story of how we became the Kingsport Axmen. Then we had to find an operator. So we went down the path of talking to a few folks, and we landed with Boyd Sports, who Steve works for now. Boyd Sports operates the Tennessee Smokies, owns and operates the Smokies, partial owner in the Memphis Redbirds. They're the operator of the Greenville Reds, now called the Greenville Flyboys. There was a Johnson City Cardinals, now the Johnson City Doughboys, and then also the Elizabethan River Riders. So the River, I can tell you their story of how they came up with their names as well. The River Riders, the river's right behind the stadium in Elizabethan. Johnson City Doughboys is a great story. Jeremy, who couldn't be here, I mentioned, huge World War I and World War II guy, loves the history. There's a World War II soldier statue behind TVA Credit Union, also known as Cardinal Park, of a doughboy. And John probably knows all the history of that from his time in Johnson City. So they thought, what a great tie. So if you haven't seen their uniforms, they look very military looking. The mascot's the doughboy with the flat World War II hat. The Flyboys in Greenville, that was a tough one. They had a hard time finding a team name there, but they landed on Flyboys because where the ballpark is at Tusculum, I guess years ago, there was actually a landing strip there. So they kind of put the military turn on it. They have I believe it's the only team that doesn't have white pants. They have a cream colored pant and a cream jersey that kind of throws back to the military colors of the khakis. And then the Axmen. Also Bristol, you guys probably figured out State Liners. That's a pretty easy one to figure out. have the Elizabeth and Ridge Runners, right? Is that correct?
River Riders.
I'm sorry, Bluefield Ridge Runners, Elizabeth and River Riders. Who's the Whistle Pigs?
Princeton.
Princeton Whistle Pigs. I should let Steve talk about this part. He knows them all.
Oh gosh, I don't know.
He's got a list. All on the schedule, pocket schedule. This should have been a trivia question.
River Turtles.
River Turtles. There we go.
Yep.
Did I miss any? Danville,
Otterbots.
Otterbots, and then the Burlington Sock Puppets. There's an interesting story about the Burlington thing, and because of Steve's tie, he can tell you that later. We'll just run through this real fast, and I'll turn it over to Steve to talk about the Axmen a little more. And he's got some trivia for you folks and some prizes. So this is the primary logo of the Axmen. Obviously, you see the axe. It is similar to a lot of pictures of, throwback to the Daniel Boone days. If you'll notice, this was the designer I talked about. It didn't have this bat look to it. It was just a regular handled axe, and he changed it to have the baseball bat look to it. It's the primary league logo. When you go to the stadium next week for the first game, you'll see that on all the doors, the administrative doors, locker rooms. That's the league logo. I believe it's also on the patch that's on the uniform, on the sleeve. Word marks, you'll see this, I believe, actually on the top of the pocket schedule. Steve's probably got some of those. And then also used in clubhouse markings. K is also similar to the Tuscan font that New York actually owns the rights to. If you look at any New York Mets, the Port St. Lucie Mets, the Kingsport Mets, any Mets team, Syracuse, they all have the Tuscan font, and actually the Mets own that font as far as baseball goes. So we had to go something close but different. So the team will still have a K on their hat like they had in the past. It'll just be that cursive K versus the other font. And that Axmen's on the front of the jersey you'll see in a minute. This is the alternate logo. I believe it's also on the pocket schedule as well, the alternate logo. Kind of neat. It's got looks like a diamond, got the home plate at the bottom. There's the cap mark we talked about with the K, cursive K. The axe. The cap mark for merchandise, which I think there's some in that box over there that Steve brought. Here's the home uniform. You'll see next week because our first games are at home. Classic white home uniforms. This probably goes without saying, but not everybody knows this. So on your home jersey, throughout most all sports, on your home jersey, you don't have your city name because people assume you're at home. They know what city you're from. So that's why the home jersey has the axe on it and Axmen. Then the visitor or away jersey has the cursive Kingsport across the chest with the Kingsport K on the top. The only downside to all this, I have to say it, John will appreciate this, is it just looks so stinking much like Florida. Steve is a Florida fan, so he didn't mind it so much.
Thanks, Frank. I was going to mention that.
So I'll just run through this real quick and then turn it over to Steve, just so everybody understands where we're at in the process now. They call it Road to the Show. Minor League Baseball is, I guess you would basically say, a defunct organization. Major League Baseball operates the minor leagues now, and you'll see that here in this portion. So what we have coming to Kingsport, and Steve may mention this more, our 34 players are part of what's called the PDP, the Player Development Pipeline, or Prospect Development Pipeline, also used. So Major League Baseball identifies the top 85 to 100 kids that are in high school. They get invited to the IMG Academy in Florida, in Bradenton, I believe, and they play in the summer league in what's called the Prospect IMG Academy. And as those players continue to get better and other players continue to get better, they get to their senior year going into their freshman year of college, and then our team will be those players as well as freshmen going up, rising sophomores, will make up the Appalachian League. So these 85 to 100 are definitely probably in with us, plus an additional couple guys that have played well in college, and you'll see the only difference in the new logo is right here in the center. It's got a USA Baseball and Major League Baseball stamp. In the past, that was just part of a green ribbon. So those players will come here and play. 340 will play in the Appalachian League across the 10 teams. Then those juniors and seniors, rising juniors and seniors, will play in the Cape Cod League, which has been around for over 100 years, and up in the Cape Cod area. And probably something that's very important to note is you can't just sign up to be in these leagues. You have to be invited, which is probably better than the contract that the minor league guys got, where they got paid no matter how good they played. They were contracted and they were getting their money. All of these kids, if they don't perform, they don't get invited back, and they fall out of the pipeline. They have to play their way back in. So you'll play in the Prospect League, you'll play in the Appalachian League. If you keep playing good, you'll get invited to the Cape Cod League. From there, you'll go to the Major League Baseball Draft League, which will be probably those graduating seniors that finish in a couple weeks, if they make it to the World Series, that are draft eligible, and they'll play in this draft league, which I think that used to be the New York Penn League. Is that what they called it? Correct? That was another league that was contracted through Major League Baseball. So you'll participate in this draft league. The draft is later in the year now. And then after you participate in that, they'll have the Major League Draft. And if you're drafted, you'll go to minor league baseball. Then that'll operate the way that it has in the past. Players will move up and down, and then ultimately make it to Major League Baseball. Then after that, the only thing to note about that is there's a few outlier leagues that still participate. These are not invite necessarily the way that the PDP is. But these leagues will continue to exist, at least in the near future. Correct. That's correct. I'll throw this slide up to introduce Steve, and then you guys can ask him all the questions. But I'll tell you as much as I know about Steve, and then he can tell you more. Steve has a wife and 2 children. I hope to meet them one day, because I think they're maybe just make-believe in his head. But they're still living in Cincinnati. But we'll be down to visit quite often. They've been down a couple times. Steve has worked in Major League Baseball or minor league baseball his entire career. He was the general manager of the Burlington team in the old Appy League. He's worked for the Cincinnati Reds, Gwinnett Braves, most recently the Louisville Bats. I'm sure I've missed like 3 in there, but Steve has hit the ground running. He's sorry, Gail, he already joined Rotary. It was part of his deal, but he is in a community club. Hit the ground running.
We'd still take it.
That's right. But he's hit the ground running, met a ton of people. He's been to some of the most crazy things already, I'm sure. He's actually went and watched a couple middle school baseball games, but kind of got a late start on the game. I guess, no pun intended. He's only been here 60 days maybe? Less than 60 days, and he's going to be ready to go next week. But without further ado, I'll let you guys hear from Steve.
Thanks, Frank.
We got to switch the microphone. I just flipped it on my lapel.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you all for having us today. Really appreciate it. It's less than a week till opening day, so it's good to get out in the community and talk about what we're doing and what we're going to do and where we're going. And Frank, actually, I recognize a face here. He's a fellow Rotarian with me on Wednesdays and is in the club here, so that's always nice to see. I was in the Kiwanis Club in Burlington, so that was my first full-time job. Prior to that, my first job in baseball was an intern on the other side of the state in Memphis with the Redbirds, AAA for the Cardinals. Learned a lot there, and then headed over to Burlington, North Carolina, and ran that team for 5 years from 2007 to 2011. We didn't have such a funny name back then. We were just the Burlington Royals, like it was the Mets here. And so the little story about why they're the sock puppets. Frank talked about all the different team names and why we're the Axmen, but why is Burlington the sock puppets? Well, back in the I think they started shutting down in the 70s or 80s, but before that, Burlington was the world headquarters for hosiery mills. I mean, they were the hosiery mill capital of the world until the jobs got sent overseas. And so the gentleman that owns the team now, he bought the team a little less than a year and a half ago. He was an intern of mine my final year in 2011, my final year there in Burlington. He bought the team last year, and he bought the Danville team in January of this year, so he owns 2 of the 10 teams. And so I called him up one day back in the fall, and I said, "What do you got? Do you have a name yet? I've got to hear it. You've got to tell me before you release it." And it was about 2 months before they released the name. He said, "I'll tell you, but you better not tell anyone else." And he said, "You want to guess?" And I said, "Well, it's either got to be something with socks or something with DNA." And that doesn't sound, just like Frank was saying with here, how do you make the team exciting and related to baseball, or, so they're known. They've got a company there, headquartered there, called LabCorp, which is DNA testing, and that doesn't sound very fun. So they went with something sock related. They went with sock puppets, kid friendly. They've done a really good job with merchandise. So that's the story there. But back to Kingsport. I've been here, about 50 days. A lot going on, more than usual. We've got a new name, so we've got to change all the signage at the ballpark. We've done that. We've got to get all the new systems put in place, ticket system, all the registers for the concession stand. Everything is brand new. The Mets kind of took all their stuff with them, all their equipment and everything that was in the stadium. And so we've got to replace all that. So I've got to come in, do all that, hire people. We've got a full staff for game day staff, our hourly workers, but then on top of that, interns, and was looking for an assistant GM. We've hired someone. He's not going to be the assistant GM. We just ran out of time on that one, but he'll be starting. He's moving here tomorrow, and he'll be starting on Sunday. So we're living at the ballpark right now. I've been there till I left last night at 12:30, I think, and I felt like I was leaving early. I've been there till 2 a.m. most nights this week, just trying to get stuff done and get ready. The paint might be drying on opening day, but we're going to be ready. The first pitch is coming at 7 o'clock on next Thursday, whether we're ready or not. So we'll be ready, but very excited. As Frank alluded to, my family. I've got a wife and 2 daughters. I really do. It is true. Frank has not met them yet, but they'll be down here. They're coming down on opening day. They'll be running around the ballpark. The two girls, my wife probably will too, chasing after them. But Alexis and Brenly, they're 7 and 4. And they're going to love it. They are so excited. They've been down already. We've been to Bays Mountain once, and they're excited. They went over to Warriors Path State Park, and they love what they've seen of Kingsport in the few times they've been down here so far. But they're excited. They'll be down here for a week or two, starting next week. So they're excited to get integrated as well. But back to the team names. I think Pals, something with Pals could have been maybe the hot dogs. I guess that's kind of a negative connotation in baseball. You're not supposed to hot dog a play, so maybe that would have been a bad connotation. But that's, I think Frank and his team did a great job with the team name. I don't think there's a better fit to bring the community together and the history. I really think they hit a home run, no pun intended. I didn't even mean to say home run. They did a great job. And coming soon, on Tuesday, we've got season ticket holder night, or Wednesday, the day before the season. The players will be here for the first time at the ballpark. They come in on Tuesday, but they'll be coming to the ballpark on Wednesday and working out for the first time. So these guys are coming from all over the country. They've never played together as a team. I think we've got 4 kids coming from University of Illinois, a couple from Kansas. So some of them played with each other, but as a team, they've never all played with each other or met each other, so it's going to be interesting to see how they come together so quickly in a short period of time. But we're going to have a season ticket holder event that night where they can come out and see the players for the first time before opening night the next day. And we're going to unveil the mascot, which I can't give away that information right now, but Frank was very instrumental in that, helped with what the mascot is, first of all, and then that was done before I got here. And then I got here and I said, Frank, now we need a name for the mascot. Do you have any suggestions? And he connected me to someone, and if I tell you who that person is, it might give away what the mascot is. So he connected me to the person. 2 days later, they came back with a name, and honestly, it could not be more perfect. It's perfect. So we're excited about that. So we've got that coming around the corner here in a few days. But just everything is new. Everything is new, and we're just trying to, at the same time, not change everything. Everything's new, but we're trying to keep things the way they were as much as we can. You know, I've been to Hunter Wright before because I worked in the league, so I'm familiar with the stadium. It's a great stadium, and you know, there's not a whole lot we have to change as far as the bones go. We're just, you know, the things we have to change, we are. So we're excited. I know we've already got a couple guys down from USA Baseball that will be helping with the team. They came in yesterday. We've got other folks from USA Baseball coming in the next few days. And then, like I said, the players and then also the coaches will be here on Tuesday. So I know they're all excited. I've talked to the manager a couple times. He's very excited to be here and be a part of the community. He's familiar with Kingsport from his playing days. But yeah, we're just excited to get out there, especially after last year not having a season. That's what I've heard. The biggest thing I've heard from previous season ticket holders that are coming back with us is they're just excited to have baseball back. You know, I've heard maybe one or two, not a lot, but one or two people, you know, I think everyone's sad that the Mets are gone, but a couple of people that are a little bit more, they're upset more than sad. And, you know, what I've said to them is there was a chance that there was no more baseball ever. You know, forget the COVID thing and why baseball got canceled last year. It was very close. I mean, it wasn't even close. It was gone. And then a couple months later, Major League Baseball came back and said, you know what, we're actually going to keep your league. And we're lucky. I mean, the other leagues that Frank put up there that used to be affiliated with major league teams, they do have baseball, but they are not set up the way we are with the backing of Major League Baseball and the backing of USA Baseball. They did a special on the MLB network about a month ago. I don't get the MLB network, ironically, so I didn't get to see it, but I think it was an hour long. It might have been longer. It might have been 2 hours. They had Cal Ripken on there talking about the league. Current manager Joe Girardi, who longtime manager for the Yankees, won a World Series there, and now he's the Phillies manager. His son is in the league this year, so he was talking about the league. They had all these people. They want this to be successful. This is not, you know, going to be a one-season thing, one-year thing. This is going to be here to stay, and they want it to succeed. So, you know, we've got very strong backing that we didn't have when I was in the league prior, when I was in Burlington. We didn't have that backing from Major League Baseball. So, like Frank said, they're going to be coming in. Major League Baseball is coming in next Friday. That tells you what they really think of how this is going to be and how important it is. And they want to come and meet, you know, the city alderman and the mayor. They're all going to be here next week. So they really, really want this to succeed, and they want to meet the folks here in the city. You know, when minor league baseball was run, Pat O'Connor, the former president of minor league baseball, he would stop in maybe once every few years, and it was great to see Pat, but he didn't come every year, and he certainly did not meet with city council or anything like that. It was just he came to the ballpark and it was hush hush. These folks want to meet the community and make sure that everything is going well and that it's going to stay going well moving forward. So it means a lot to them. And I think, you know, like I said, we're just happy that there's baseball back. So I think we're very lucky, and that's how I'm looking at it, that there's baseball back. I would have been very sad to see if the Appalachian League was never to exist again. But yeah, that's kind of the background of where we are right now, where we're going. It's going to be a great season. It's 27 games at the stadium with the Axmen, and then we've announced one exhibition game. We've got the Native American national team coming in. They will play when our team is on the road. And then we've got one other exhibition game that has not been announced yet. It'll be announced on June 6th, I believe, is the date that the league is going to announce that. But that'll be a very big event as well. Also, when the team is on the road, so we'll have 29 games at our ballpark, 27 featuring the Axmen, and 2 exhibition games when they're on the road. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to it. And just as I was invited to join Kiwanis, which I used to be a Kiwanis member. I was in Kiwanis in Burlington. Loved the club there. Great bunch of people. I'm still friends with them. I've been gone there for 10 years, and I still keep in touch with several of them on a monthly basis. So very familiar with Kiwanis. But I would invite you all to come out to the ballpark. Anyone wants to be a season ticket holder, we'd love to have you, and we'd love to see you at the ballpark. But yeah, I'll open it up to questions, and I've got a couple questions for you all, but I'll open it up to questions for you first. Yes, sir.
2 things.